Good morning, friends. Welcome to Daylight Saving Time, that annual reminder that we don't actually save daylight. We just borrow an hour of sleep and never pay it back. I feel this is the perfect Sunday to talk about what change asks of us. I first started thinking about this topic a while back when my husband, Skip, and I were talking with my sister and brother-in-law. We were still settling into our new place here in Missouri, and our conversation took us down memory lane as we reminisced about the changes we've shared over the years. My brother-in-law said, "Do you know you've lived in 7 different places since I've known you?" And to put his comment in context, he's been married to my sister for 49 years. They've lived in their current home for 44 years. His point, I think, was a reflection on how many changes he's seen me experience throughout my life. And to some people, this may feel like a lot of change, but each move has marked an ending and a new beginning in different chapters of my life's story. Change is something we all experience, isn't it? It shows up in our lives, our relationships, and even in our spiritual communities, whether we're ready for it or not. Sometimes change can feel so exciting, and sometimes it feels unsettling. Have you ever noticed how change often arrives just when we're getting comfortable? Yet, when we look at it through a spiritual lens, we begin to see that change isn't random or chaotic. It's usually part of a divine unfolding. Today, we'll explore how trusting in this unfolding helps us move through uncertainty with faith and makes change an invitation to grow, both individually and together. In Unity teachings, we understand change as a sign that spirit is alive and active. Change is not chaos, it is divine order unfolding. Spirit is always expressing, expanding, and renewing. And as spiritual beings having a human experience, we are participants in this sacred movement. Just as nature moves through cycles of growth, rest, and renewal, our lives move through seasons as well. There are seasons of learning, seasons of release, and seasons of transformation. Each season serves a purpose. None is wasted. None are accidental. And many of us experience seasons of change around life transitions. For example, someone might spend years raising children or caring for a family, only to suddenly find themselves in a quieter house with fewer daily demands. At first, that change can feel like loss or uncertainty. We may ask, who am I now? What is my purpose in this season? And yet, over time, that same season often becomes an opening, a chance to rediscover creativity, deepen our spiritual practice, serve in new ways, or listen more closely. to what Spirit is calling forth. What once felt like an ending slowly reveals itself as a new beginning. The Bible offers us powerful examples of personal change and transformation in the story of Saul becoming Paul. Saul was very certain of who he was and what he was meant to do and be. He was confident, driven, and deeply committed to his understanding of truth. And yet, on the road to Damascus, his life changed completely. In a moment of divine encounter, everything Saul thought he knew was interrupted. And this change was not comfortable. Saul lost his sight. He had to stop moving forward and instead surrender. He had to listen. He had to trust. And in that space of uncertainty, a new identity emerged. Saul became Paul, not because his passion disappeared, but because it was transformed. The same energy that once resisted became a force for healing and love. His past was not erased, it was redeemed. His gifts were not taken away, they were redirected. Paul's story reminds us that change is not punishment or failing. It is often a divine invitation. Even when we feel temporarily blinded by uncertainty, Spirit is still at work, reshaping us into a fuller expression of who we are meant to be. We also see seasons of change in spiritual communities. A familiar program may end, leadership may shift, or a long-standing tradition may evolve. At first, this may stir resistance or concern, and we might ask, why do we need to change what's working? But often, these moments invite a community to listen more deeply, to clarify its purpose, and to respond creatively to present needs. What emerges may look different than before, but it often carries renewed energy, fresh vision, and a deeper sense of shared trust. The change becomes a sign that the community is alive and still listening to Spirit. The Bible once again gives us an example of a community that changed in Acts 2. After Jesus was gone, the followers gathered the way they always had, quietly, cautiously, behind closed doors. They stayed close to what felt familiar. The doors were locked, not against danger, but against uncertainty. They prayed, they waited, and they wondered what came next. Change was already in the room, even if no one knew how to name it yet. Then one day, Spirit moved and everything shifted. The fear that had kept them hidden gave way to courage. People spilled into the streets. Barriers fell. Differences no longer mattered. They listened to one another, shared what they had, and discovered that faith was no longer something practiced, alone, but something lived together. They reorganized their lives, not because someone told them to, but because love required it. What had once been a small, cautious group became a living, breathing community, not perfect, not polished, but alive. And in that willingness to change, spirit found room to grow. This was not chaos. It was spirit-led reorganization. The community adapted its structure, practices, and identity in response to what spirit was doing among them. Their willingness to change allowed the movement to grow and serve more fully. One of Unity's foundational teachings is the principle of divine order. Divine order is loving, intelligent, and purposeful. Even when we cannot see the whole picture, Spirit is guiding our steps. When we trust this order, we affirm something powerful within ourselves. I am guided. I am supported. I am not alone. Everything is working for my good. This trust allows us to let go of fear and rest in spiritual assurance. Often, it isn't change itself that troubles us. It's our resistance to it. We resist because in our human skins, we long for familiarity. We fear loss. We worry about making mistakes. We doubt our ability to adapt. And yet, resistance keeps us anchored in the past. For instance, we remain anchored in the past when we cling to the way we've always done it, not because it still serves us necessarily, but just because it feels familiar. Or we resist change when we hold tightly to an old identity, a role, a job, or a season of life, and struggle to imagine who we are becoming beyond it. In spiritual communities, resistance often shows up as we've never done it that way before, honoring tradition while quietly avoiding transformation. And often, resistance is simply the reluctance to let go. And like Saul on the road to Damascus, we may have to release who we thought we were before we can become who Spirit is calling us to be. Unity reminds us that our thoughts shape our experiences, and when we hold fear, we create tension. When we hold faith, we invite grace. Releasing resistance does not mean denying our feelings. It means meeting them with compassion and wisdom. It means saying, I feel uncertain and I trust God. I don't have all the answers and I am guided. I am learning, and that is enough. Every meaningful change invites us to become more of who we truly are. Through change, we grow in resilience, maturity, faith, compassion, and self-awareness. This is true not only for us as individuals, but also for us as spiritual communities. Ministries evolve, programs adapt, leadership shifts, new visions emerge. These are not signs of loss, they are signs of life. When Israel was exiled to Babylon, their entire communal life changed. No temple, no familiar rituals, no homeland. But rather than disappearing, the community reimagined their faith. Worship shifted from temple to heart and home. Scripture and prayer became central, and identity moved from place-based to spirit-centered. This painful change ultimately deepened their spirituality. In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5 through 7, he spoke to a community ready for change when he said, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." He was not rejecting their tradition. He was evolving it toward love, compassion, and inner transformation. The community was invited to shift from law to love, from behavior to consciousness, and from fear to trust. Jesus was explaining that change redirects what already exists. It doesn't erase it. Change does not destroy the foundation or the essence. Instead, it transforms and guides what is already present into a new direction. The core remains, but the expression and the purpose evolve. Through this process, familiar elements find new meaning, and growth happens without losing what was valuable before. Change, then, is not about starting over, but about reshaping and renewing, allowing what already exists to serve a greater purpose in a new context. Throughout Scripture and in our own lives, whenever Spirit moves in a new way, the individual or community has a decision to make: cling to what was familiar or trust what God is unfolding. A living ministry and individual listens to Spirit, responds with love, and remains open to guidance. When we embrace change individually and together, we become a powerful expression of faith in action. Change will always be part of our journey, but we do not walk alone. Divine wisdom walks with us. Divine love surrounds us. Divine order guides us. As expressions of infinite Spirit, nothing can diminish us. Every experience expands us. Every step has purpose. And so we move forward with confidence, faith, and gratitude, knowing that every transformation, every change is part of our sacred becoming. And so this is Shalom.